YouTube, we are back. What's good? Marvin's Room. Today's episode is special because I want to talk to you guys about fear and anxiety and dealing with that and where that comes from as far as manifesting your specific person or whatever it may be, but particularly with dealing with manifesting a specific person, because I realize that so many comments and things, whether it's on YouTube or people I talk to in person, there's a lot of fear and anxiety around, the unknown. Is everything uncertain? Free will, all of these sort of things. And I want you guys to understand something. Fear is basically rooted in attachment. Fear is 100% rooted in attachment because you have fear of loss. You have a great fear of loss. And so whatever it is that you're attached to, you're afraid to lose that. And that's where that fear and anxiety comes from. Now, where's the basic fundamental foundation of that being laid coming from? From childhood. Because fear and anxiety is something that's learned. Fear and anxiety is something that's learned from television, from the music you listen to, from the movies you watch, etc., etc. And that's what I want you guys to understand about fear and anxiety, is that it's something that's learned, and it's something that can definitely be forgotten once you learn how to train the brain. I mean, think about when you guys are young, when you fall and you get a bruise on your arm, and now oh, I have to be careful, or you hear your parents arguing, and that creates some sort of fear in your insides, in your heart, in your mind, and you're like, oh man, arguing must be bad. You know what I mean? It's certain things like this you got to understand. This is where fear and anxiety come from, but it can 100% be unlearned if you apply the right steps. Now, something I want to talk to you guys about is the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is what's known as your fight or flight, response. You probably heard that. When things are going on and you're like right now, I'm out here in nature and I see a bear, or I can see an animal or something coming at me. What's going to happen is that's the sympathetic nervous system telling you fight or flight. Something's going on. There's fear, there's danger around, and that's what the sympathetic nervous system is about. And so that turns on. Now, contrary to that, you have your parasympathetic nervous system, which relaxes the mind, which is calm, which is easy. And I want you to understand about these two things is that they cannot be turned on at the same time. Your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system cannot be active at the same time. And what you guys have to start doing to deal with this fear and anxiety is you have to start tapping into your parasympathetic nervous system. You want that to be more active to help deal with whatever fear and anxiety that you have going on in your life. Because when your parasympathetic nervous system is active, that is what allows a person to get into those meditative states and to do their affirmations and to be more aware of how they're feeling and comfortable with actually doing the work on themselves. Now, dealing with fear and anxiety when it comes to a specific person, you got to look at yourself and understand that you're doing this because of how you were taught, how you were raised. This fear and anxiety of losing someone, why is that so important to you? Why is it so relevant? Where is that relevancy coming from? Did you lose a great love when you were younger? Did you lose a parent when you were younger? You got to think about all of these things. And the way to me to handle fear and anxiety when it comes to a specific person, when you're trying to get an ex back, when you're trying to get whatever back, the best way to deal with that, I believe, is to 100% do the work on yourself. You have to do the work on yourself and understand that fear and anxiety really aren't real. It's just a result of your mind processing everything, because your mind and your thoughts are processing everything wrong. What is that saying about, I'm trying to think of that saying that fear stands for. It's an acronym, but I can't think of the acronym right now. But I want you to understand, fear is not real. How many times have you came to a door and you thought that there were so many things behind that door, and you were afraid to open that door, and then you realize once you finally open that door, you realize, holy shit, there's nothing behind that door. This is what I want you to understand about fear. Get rid of the fear and anxiety about losing a specific person, losing an ex, because that's fear. And I want you guys to understand that fear is not real. The anxiety behind it is not real. You can't control your thoughts. You can't control your emotions. And that's why you experience these high levels of fear and anxieties, because you've never been properly taught how to handle your thoughts along with your emotions. And once a person properly learns how to handle their thoughts and emotions, things like fear and anxiety can no longer exist. Now, something that I recommend you guys doing would be obviously meditation, because meditation is something that helps people stop thought. And when I say meditation, I don't mean like living in the end meditations or, doing visualizations. I mean 100% specifically stopping thought, focusing on your breath and stopping your thought, thinking of nothing, because the human brain thinks thousands of thoughts daily. And what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to just practice on working on meditation for maybe 15, 20 minutes a day to start. If you can do that, to just quiet your mind, which will drastically help with fear and anxiety. Because when you silence the mind, you raise your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, you're going to start to attract the things that you want in your life. And I think silencing the mind is something huge to deal with anxiety, to deal with fear. I mean, pretty much to deal with any negative thought patterns that people have developed over their lifetime. Now, what I want you to do is also, along with that, I want you to go back again, because a lot of these things go back to childhood. I want you to go back to childhood, and I want you to figure out, is there any place where, your childhood was traumatized or hurt, etc.? Because that's the reason why a lot of times fear and anxiety is prevalent in a lot of people's lives, because they've never dealt with anything that happened in childhood. And that's extremely important. That's one of the biggest pieces that you could do in dealing with fear and anxiety. But most importantly, I want you to understand is that fear and anxiety is not real. It's not real. And also something that you could do, as you see I'm out in nature, come out in nature, because coming out in nature and doing stuff like that, that's also known, scientifically known, to lower levels of anxiety. Get out in nature, walk in nature, go grounding. It's called grounding. You take your shoes off and you just walk around, and you just get realigned with Earth, because Earth has a certain frequency, and our bodies are supposed to be in line with that frequency as well. So that's also another thing to think about. But like I said, most importantly, I want you guys to understand that fear and anxiety is not real. You have to get out of your own head. You have to stop thinking those negative thoughts, because you're doing it to yourself. It's nobody else's fault. You're doing it to yourself. You have this fear and anxiety because of what you're doing to yourself. You're the one creating these negative thoughts, these things that haven't even happened yet, these assumptions, all of these sorts of things. It's not real. You have to understand it's not real. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about right now. So yeah, guys, that's what I wanted to jump on here real quick and talk to you guys about, is getting rid of the fear and anxiety, because we all know what fear is. False evidence appearing real. Fear is not real. It is something that is learned from your childhood, from your experiences in life, and it can 100% be unlearned. Check out my other videos, because I talk about how you can get into the state and how you can learn to reprogram your subconscious mind, because in order to get rid of fear and anxiety, that's what has to happen. You have to reprogram your subconscious mind, and you do that, like I said before in my other video, by getting in the theta state and saying your affirmations and doing, your visualizations and all that good stuff. So retrain your subconscious mind to help get rid of fear and anxiety. Understand that nothing happens when you want it to happen. Understand the universe has everything figured out, and it would happen according to the universe's time and not your time. You know what I mean? And understand that time is not real. Time, people look at time as this sort of thing that you can sort of calculate, but understand that the universe doesn't work according to the time of man. Does not work according to the time of man. The universe knows ways to make your manifestation, to make your SP and your X or whoever it is you want to come back, in those ways that you will never even think of happening. And that's what you have to understand, is you have to understand and know that, and put your trust in the universe and stop trying to trust yourself, because the universe is way smarter than all of us. And it's the one that really has the answers. We don't really have the answers. We get the answers from the universe. So we must trust the universe and know that their way is better than our way. All right, guys, it's another episode of Marvin's Room. I'm so happy you joined me again. You guys know where I'll see you.